do we care about tampering in the NBA? I mean, I'm honestly asking.
My gut would tell me we shouldn't. I mean, really, why should we?
I mean, let me try to find a way where we would care. Let's say that De'Aaron Fox was a free agent, and we found out that the Lakers. I'm trying to make this as bad as possible. That the Lakers had a meeting with him when they played after a game at Staples, and a bunch of Laker players were there, and then Fox eventually signed. Like, even at that aspect, would we care?
No, I mean, who was was it Magic? It was on Jimmy Kimmel? I don't know if he's talking about Paul George or whoever it was, and kind of got in trouble for that. Like, when you're a player of Paul George status, I believe every team in the league wants you.
Right.
So what does it matter that Magic Johnson goes on a late night show and talks about you, or your agent's talking with their front office people, oh, wink, wink, before free agency starts, and then it's 12:01, and you've signed a deal and you've agreed to 4-year term. Like, that stuff's all been talked about. I think the charm of finding out the date and the time of free agency for us as fans is, wow, here's all the movement. If there's truly, like, that's when it starts, then we'd have to adjust our timetable. We'd be comfortable with that, but I don't think the league is going to ever really do anything about that.
Would you rather have a situation where any tampering was met with swift retribution? And I'm talking about not just teams, not just GMs, not just coaches, but if somebody found out that Draymond Green texted Kevin Durant and wanted him to come there, or whatever it was, that LeBron James texted Matthew Dellavedova, if he was with, whatever the situation is, if you found that out, that they would get, huge fines. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have tampering galore?
I'm actually just whatever this is, whatever the version is now, because I think we'd be naive to think that players don't talk to each other about forming teams, agents. When you see videos now where there's some Kings players playing in Europe together, there's down at UCLA, they've got all sorts of big runs that happen all the time. There's the Drew League and all these other things. Don't those guys talk? Like, hey, what would it be like if we were? I mean, so yes. I don't even know how you quantify what's tampering and what's not.
I remember hearing, and I think this has been talked about publicly before, so I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. But one of my buddies who was in really close to DeMarcus Cousins back when Cousins was here, would talk about how anytime he went to he played in the summer, they'd play in LA, they'd play in Vegas, or anytime he was on the All-Star team and you were there for All-Star weekend, the amount of players, and I won't say the players' names, although I want to say somebody wrote about this once, the amount of players, we're talking superstar players, that would just hard pitch the guy. Listen, dude, what are you doing there? They suck. You're never going to win there. You're not a relevant player. You're way too good, dude. We need you. Come join us and let's get a chip. You're going to make more money in your shoe deal. You're going to be in the postseason. You're going to get more endorsements. You're going to be able to get a ring, or you can spend your prime years in Sacramento doing absolutely nothing. And you know what? Sad to say, it's going to tick people off, but I'm right. Bad decision. I think if DeMarcus Cousins could go back, and yes, there's all kinds of things that are his fault and blah, 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 but just black and white. If DeMarcus Cousins could go back and opt out of his very first deal and go somewhere else, part of the reason he opted in, obviously, the biggest part was the money, but also that he is a loyal dude and he thought this team could turn it around. He was wrong. They didn't. And so let's be honest, he spent all but 1.5 years of his prime, his all-star level 20 and 12, 25 and 12 prime. He spent it in absolute obscurity.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he still was gifted, but you're right. I mean, that he was waiting for the payday here, and he was so close to having it happen, and then ultimately the trade and the injury, but whether he could have gotten more money or certainly more wins, which would accrue more fame, he missed that opportunity.
He 100% did, and that's the big question. We as there was the Chris Webber situation. Those of us old enough to remember, Joe and Gavin would mow your lawn if you stay, and the whole thing there when this entire city was gripped by the idea of losing Chris Webber right when we were heading towards the top. And I got to think the only equivalent on that would be if the well, I don't even know if it would be an equivalent, but let's fast forward and let's say that the Kings make the play-in this year. And then the following year, they have a Memphis-style year, and they're in the number 3, number 2 seed, something like that. And they're partially led by all-star Domantas Sabonis, who just explodes and is leading the team. Well, guess what? That's his free agency year.
Right.
I don't think it would have the same furor as the Weber thing. I think that was unique, but I think it's going to be the closest thing we've seen since, including DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I really would. So.
Of course, I'm presenting a scenario that almost certainly will not happen, but you can cross your fingers. The NBA, incidentally, is investigating the Knicks, Leon Rose, that whole crew, for the Jalen Brunson signing. Brunson has huge ties to the Knicks. Leon Rose was his first client, was Jalen Brunson's dad. Brunson played for the Knicks. Jalen, the kid, grew up around the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. I mean, it was almost he was meant to go to the Knicks, but they're going to see if the Knicks did anything underhanded on the way. Same thing with Harden in Philadelphia and tampering there as well on his contract restructure.
I just don't. Okay, so there's talk about if you lose a pick or financial penalties to the team. Do you have to look at every? I mean, like, is the league then going to go? Okay, yeah, you're pinching us, the Knicks or the Sixers, but you know what Sacramento did? You know what the T-Wolves did? You see what the Heat like? I don't know. It's kind of like look over here too. I feel like they should just let these slide. I don't even slide, but just like, okay, it's happening.
Here's my question. Let's say the Knicks in Philly. They both get punished, and just in this hypothetical here, they both get punished, and they both lose their 2023 first-round draft picks. Now, what I forget, is that just does the first round just become
28? Yeah,
shorter?
I believe so. Yeah, there's like one less pick in that. Yes.
So technically, if you're drafted 29th, you're a second rounder?
I believe so. If that's, and I'm trying to think if there's I don't know that there's ever been 2 picks removed, but I'm trying to think if there's ever been a situation like that.
Now, here's what I think. I think now we're talking something here with the play-in. All right, you have the play-in, and you get those 2 first-round picks as part of the award. Because I was thinking about this the other day.
Or the midseason tournament.
What did I say?
A play-in.
I'm sorry. I meant the midseason tournament. Thank you, Jason.
Or you're allowed to tamper if you win.
Well, I was, this we'll wrap this up, but I was thinking about this. Our thing with the midseason tournament with the NBA is always what's the motivation for the players?
Correct.
So here's the thought. Okay. What you do is you actually do involve the draft and or the lottery. And what you do is you offer mid-season prizes that would largely benefit the franchise. First-round picks, maybe a buy into the play-in at the very least, which would guarantee you a couple of home dates. Here's my thing. You make this thing incredibly attractive to the franchises and to the ownership. And then you offer no cash prizes. And what you do is you put the onus on ownership to offer prizes from within. In other words, any team that wins it, they're not only going to get the NBA prizes, but then it's tasked upon the teams themselves to award, which is something that could make differences in free agency. You make those prizes salary cap free, which is an interesting way to possibly circumvent some things. If you offer those incentives, for example, let's say you can't re-sign LeBron James to the $70 million deal he could get, you do 50, but hey, okay, if you're the MVP of the play-in tournament, we'll give you $25 million. You could structure contracts on your team with incentives that would reward for those types of deals in the midseason tournament. I think there's a little more there than maybe we thought of before.
Yeah, I think that, like we said before, that's the biggest challenge for this midseason thing is how it's a cool concept. It's different. I appreciate that. It's just how do you get them motivated?
Fans don't have